If you're an experienced investor in the stock market, you will realize that capital preservation is far more important than capital appreciation. And that is why we take our time on Clockwise to explain to you in details the reason behind every market move. Now, today will not be an exceptional day. Today we'll be discussing industrial stocks, the industrial index. But before we do that, as usual, we are going to analyze few other industrial index we've called before on this show to see if they actually move the way we had predicted. Welcome to Clockwise. My name is Providence. And you know already that I will not be doing this alone. I have my stock market analyst, the one that sleeps on the chart and understands the fundamentals of these businesses. Now, with a resounding virtual round of applause, welcome my guest, Mr. Kandem. Welcome to Clockwise.
Thank you very much for having me.
How has it been?
Very fine indeed.
How's the market going?
Well,
I think we are doing well.
We
should be seeing more liquidity from in the coming months because so many of our market index will be listed in the foreign market, especially London.
Yes, the London. But there's actually a caveat though. You know, when companies, liquidity for the business itself, but for the depth of the Nigerian market, I don't think it is this enthusiasm around going to list in foreign markets. The thing is that instead of what we are seeing is that instead of institutional or foreign profit investors to come to Nigeria to the NGX, they would rather go to the London Stock. For example, look at GTCO. GTCO, if you look at its listing on the NGX, you think, why is it so muted? Yeah. Because it's available on the London Stock.
So they just actually
instead of actually coming to Nigeria, they just invest in the London Stock. So I don't think it's for the company it's a net positive in terms of liquidity.
Yeah, for the company.
But for the depth of market in the NGX, it's not that.
All right, let's discuss something very crucial, which is the industrial index, industrial stocks, what most of us will actually know it for. But before then, we've actually spoken about this before on this show.
Yes.
And two names have been recurrent. That's Boa Cement and also Dangote Cement. Yes. Now, we've actually talked about that. So before we list the five, we'll be talking about it. Let's first of all look at what these two have done so far.
Okay, thank you. I remember there was a time we did a show, and then at that time Boa was still around north of 400, and I think someone actually mentioned when is Boa coming down that Boa is too overpriced, and I remember on that show I said that most of these names will be re-rated, and then that's why for me I actually had packed my dry powder somewhere to enter Boa. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch it when it came to the lows because I remember at the time it hit the lows, I was supposed to make a buy, but I couldn't make a buy. So the point for me is, it goes to show that when you look at technicals and fundamentals, you can to some extent predict where price action will be going to. Because I remember I said, okay, look, if you observe the leg up, it left a lot of imbalances. Those imbalances will have to be filled, whether today or tomorrow or next month, but it will have to be filled. And that is what we saw happen to Boa Cement. Now for Dangote Cement, I remember the very first thing we reviewed. We mentioned Dangote earlier this year, and then we reviewed Dangote. We saw the outperformance about over 47% for those who had taken our initial call. I had said that at the point there was a need for us to wait for some retracement, which it did. It's gone back up, and by the remember, especially for this, the only name that has actually called is Boa Cement. Boa Cement has released its numbers. We saw those numbers. Very to some extent very impressive. So I believe that if Boa can do that, you can look at the likes of it's no longer called Lafarge, it's called HBM, Hoxton Building Materials.
What our viewers like?
No, I'm saying that because if you go on TradingView, you won't see Lafarge anymore. So what you see is HBM Nigeria PLC. That is Hoxton Building Materials Nigeria PLC. So if you look at those names and then you look at Boa, you realize that the industrials have outperformed.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think we had mentioned before that June crash, industrials returned 118%. It was the best performing industry, sector in the NGX. The NGX has 13 sectors and 33 subsectors.
Yeah.
So, but the industrials actually toward above every other. Even oil was not as good as industrial. Okay. So those names have performed well. Dangote is, I believe that the next leg is a leg up, because once Dangote announces, and Dangote seems to be, not only because it's the largest company on the NGX, listed company on the NGX, but also because Dangote, the tentacles it has put out, especially, it is like the behemoth in the industrial space. Just for context, if you pick HBM and Lafarge, they combine their market cap is not equivalent to Dangote. So I think Dangote is like Nvidia to the AI trade. Dangote is what I call a rising tide that lifts all boats. So I'm expecting a lot of performance. We've had some performance before, and then it has trickled down to where we are our point of interest, and we are looking at accumulating.
Now, let's look at the undervalued stocks, especially in this sector, this industrial sector, because you see, the stock is always beautiful when you buy at an undervalued price and with strong fundamentals. You are actually assured of a very good upside. You don't buy the top, you don't sell the bottom. So let's look at the undervalued stocks. What are the stocks that are undervalued currently?
The most undervalued, I know people will
you give us reasons why you feel
yes, of course, I'm going to do that. People might not understand, but the most undervalued industrial stock is Dangote Cement.
Why do you feel so?
Okay, good. Dangote Cement has no business trading at 15 times earnings. Dangote is a Pan-African industrial play. Dangote's pricing power, Dangote's earnings growth, balance sheet. No, Dangote has no reason trading at 15 times earnings. It doesn't have
any expansion.
It doesn't have any business trading at 15 times earnings. There is a massive expansion that is coming in. Dangote pays out 74% of the earnings. That's not a name. For me, I think that people are thinking that Dangote is like the same thing that happened to Airtel Africa. People believe that Dangote at north of 1,000 naira is expensive. It is not. I just gave you some indicators.
Yeah.
Dangote has no business trading at 15 times earnings. No, it doesn't. The fundamentals are just too strong for that name to be trading at such a paltry valuation. Or price to earnings ratio. We have not even heard of, but I am very certain by the time we look at the forward guidance, that forward guidance, you might even see Dangote trading by the time they announce their earnings. You might see Dangote, the PE ratio collapsing from even that 15.69 to somewhere around 13. And you know what that still means. Yeah. Okay, for context, literally all the other names on, like, is it Boa Cement? Boa Cement is trading at 17 times earnings. Boa is trading at 17 times earnings.
Which is smaller than Dangote.
But I said if you need to combine HBM and
Lafarge,
there's Lafarge, and then Boa.
To be able to meet
no, it doesn't even get to. It doesn't get to. That will give you about 14 trillion. Dangote is 17 trillion. If you put both of them together, it's 14 trillion. Dangote is 17 trillion market cap.
And it's trading lower than Boa.
And it's trading lower in terms of multiples. Yeah. It's trading at a lower multiple than Boa. That's why I'm telling you that Dangote has no reason to be trading at the price.
So it's undervalued currently.
So it's undervalued. I think it has actually had a retracement, a sharp retracement down. But I think it has since picked up. I think it is an opportunity for you to accumulate. People, I know they play. People wait until Dangote, release earnings, and then by the time that happens, the price would have shot up, and then you begin to think about buying the top and possibly selling the bottom later on. So Dangote is a name for me. If you look at the earnings potential of these names, I could as well put Boa in this list, really. Because if you look at the earnings potential of these names, the multiples they are trading at, I mean, they are very tiny.
Very low.
They are very tiny. If it is like maybe about 20 in the 20s, then I could say, okay, it is moderately priced and all that. If you look at even the book value, most of these names, okay, I mean, Boa is trading at a premium to its book value though, but the earnings growth, because at the end of the day, if you don't just look at just the PE ratio, the PE ratio allows you to compare names across within the same industry. Okay, if Dangote is trading at this multiple, Boa is trading at this multiple, you can now tell which one is cheaper. But again, also you look at the earnings growth, because let me tell you what that means. A company might be trading at maybe by estimates, it might be trading at maybe 15 times earnings. But by the time the reports come in, and then you have a forward guidance, or you have what the analysts are looking at, it might collapse from that 15 times earnings to about 13 times earnings. So what that means is, if a name is trading at 15 times earnings, that means that you are buying 1 naira of earnings with 15 naira. That is, you are paying 15 naira to buy 1 naira of earnings. Meaning that theoretically, it will take you about 15 years to get your money back from the earnings. Do you understand? Yeah. Good. So, but when the earnings begin to grow, as we have seen, even with Bowser, when you look at the earnings growth, when earnings begin to grow, then what happens? The multiple collapses. When the multiple collapses, so for example, let's say it collapses to, let's say, 12. That means you're paying 12 naira for 1 naira worth of earnings. So that is why we realize how much.
If you're not putting Boa at number 2, what are you putting at number 2?
I'm putting Lafarge.
Okay.
I'm putting Lafarge or HBM, so people don't confuse. Lafarge is now HBM, Hoxton Building Materials Nigeria PLC. Now, let me tell you something. The partnership they have, this HBM takeover, for me is a very strategic. Remember, Chinese. You know what about Chinese? When they come in and take up a company, they transform that company. And by the way, just so you know, because of this foreign orientation of the business now, they have literally a huge access to capital. And remember, for most of these industrial names, it's about expansion. Sometimes this business is not so, you don't have such a huge margin. So where you make money is in the volume. So how do you make the volume? It is by the more money you can mobilize. And that also makes you to be resilient to interest. I mean, we are operating in a high interest rate environment now. So the challenges that industrial names have is that they are not able to borrow at a cheap rate to be able to expand. But if you have the capital from your foreign support, then you have access to capital. You don't even need to go to the debt market. You can have access to expand and then remain very competitive. So I think that Lafarge is going to be a name that HBM would be a name that people should really look at very constructively. Number 3, for me, would be Beggar Pens.
Beggar Pens.
So we have been talking about cement, and nobody has been thinking about when that house is built.
What do they use? So I think Beggar Pens is a name that we have never called on this show, actually. Yeah. But I think Beggar Pens is primed to actually be very successful. And I say this because what is the parent company?
Beggar Pens is actually the company. Yeah. So I think it's primed to be successful, because if you look at the price of houses now, if you want to rent a small space where you can literally not sit, you are hearing 800,000, 1.5 million, and all.
Depending on your location.
Depending on your location. Some location, if you come up with 1.5 million, they will think that you want to go and buy granite or something. So, but the names that benefit in this environment, in where you have real estate becoming like all money, is those that are involved in construction. Those that are involved in finishing, like the building materials in terms of cement, Dangote cement, finishing, Beggar Pens. So I believe that these guys were going to make a very they are going to be very successful in this regard, because again, they also we have a pockets of other producers, but they don't have, in terms of spread, in terms of distribution network, because remember, industrials also work with distribution network. Dangote is all over the place because when we have a part of Dangote, we had Ibeto Cement, we had even this Lafarge we talk about and all of that. But the problem that we even had Eagle Cement.
Yeah, Eagle Cement.
But you now realize that the more whoever is able to penetrate the market more. I know people have different opinions about what I'm saying just now, but I mean, we are talking with what we can actually prove. The more penetration you have, and the more reliable, it's not, nobody will come on board to sell your product when he places order today and receive it in 6 months. No, you have to be able to have the volume to be able to take off. So that, for me, is the reason why I believe that this name, Dangote, Lafarge, HBM, Nigerian PLC, and then Beggar Pens would succeed.
Which will be number 4.
Then Better Glass. Okay. You saw what happened with Better Glass recently. The approval to really reorganize the company. But for me, they sit in a space where they are extremely competitive in terms of producing something that is very essential. Very essential in the sense that you have, they produce glass, of course. So is there anything nowadays that doesn't, is there about anything nowadays that you don't have?
Glass.
There's almost nothing.
Nothing.
So as the industrial frontier expands, not just in Nigeria, but outside Nigeria, but even in Nigeria,
we have a large market.
You have a large market, and that's why you saw their recent numbers very, 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 very impressive. And then for me, I think that beyond that, even I think there is also an opportunity to expand, because there's no way you're going to talk about people building houses. There's no way you're going to talk about even industrial application of glasses. There's no way you talk about, you can, whatever you can think of, that needs that particular, needs glass, would actually rely, and any name that has a pricing power, that is very competitive in that space, is going to be very, very successful. So I think that this particular area will be very successful. Then the other one,
the final one
is, I don't know, CAP, they are also still into paints too. So, but I don't know whether to put this one or to put Boasa, because in terms of fundamentals, they are literally about the same. In terms of when you blend the price to earnings ratio with the earnings growth and all of that,
they're almost the same.
They are almost the same. And I know someone that will want me to lean towards Boa, because she actually, but Boa is coming back up. She actually got a very serious exposure to Boa. I told you now, 67% of our portfolio is in Boa, and so she was really down. I'm telling you, she was down. She saw about 39% drawdown in this June correction. So if not for the fact that she also had MTN on the portfolio, First Bank, First Holdco on the portfolio, so those other ones made. Otherwise, it would have been a very Boa Cement literally almost did a 50% drawdown in recently.
But it's coming back again.
But it's coming back again.
The fundamentals are still okay.
The fundamentals are still okay. Even the numbers that they dropped are still okay. But I think that investors are beginning to be. I think the point is, people are like literally conserving what they have to be able to look at some names. To be able to look at some names like Dangote. Dangote's name has not listed yet, and most especially, in fact, what I'm seeing is that a number of people are putting down their money for the Fugas. Remember, of all the Fugas, it's only First Holdco that have listed. So that's why you're not seeing that snap. Otherwise, the numbers that those guys that Boa delivered should have been an immediate reaction.
People are waiting for the Fugas, and also the speculation that Dangote may actually list by August.
No, I think it's too. I think it's too.
Yeah, it's speculation.
It's speculation, but it will be too early. In fact, if even possible, it would be even you extend it, bringing it closer. Remember, there are a lot of things that happen before you go to list. We have not even seen. I've not seen the S1 filing actually. So you can't relate to that. But my point is, what are the big guys doing? The big guys are really reclining and waiting to see some of these fugas name list.
So they will see where to.
So they will see the way they will deploy cash. That's why I told you even in the last podcast that I'm also, though I've actually gotten it, because again, I don't believe in waiting until names are mentioned. I already know that based on Q1 result, most of these names will do very well. Even the Dangote we're talking about, I believe that they were going to do very well in the H1 result. If that happens, I don't want to wait until the price snaps up and then I go to buy at that point and wait for retracement to happen. And I'm part of the retracement going down. Rather, you buy at this point. I know it might not sound very intuitive, but buy at this point. And then, because, what do you think would make these names to report a poor result? What do you think will make them? What has materially changed? Oh, inflation rates have remained high. Or interest rates have remained high. Who told Dangote has over? If you look at even the Q1 result, Dangote has over $1 trillion in terms of operating cash flow. If I'm not mistaken. So they are not eager to go to the market to borrow money. So what I believe is that I don't see anything materially that will make Dangote to have a poor H1 result. So why don't you allocate at this time? Why don't you start accumulating at this time so that by the time that snaps up, look at Face Holco. Face Holco snapped from 52 or 53 all the way to 128. I know some people that are bought at 120, I know some people that are literally bought at 125 and all of that because they waited to see whether that. Face Holco is for me is the canary in the coal mine. I believe that other fugas, is it Zenith Bank? If you know the way investors, especially foreign portfolio investors, love Zenith Bank, they love Zenith Bank, they love GTCO. But for me, I also put my Access, and the reason I'm putting my Access is before you laugh is because it is the cheapest bank. So that is the same. So for industrials, I'm looking at Dangote Cement, I'm looking at Bois Cement, I'm looking at
Lafarge.
Dangote, eventually Bois comes in, by the way. Dangote, I'm looking at Lafarge or HBM. I'm looking at Bega Pens. I'm looking at Beta Glass. I'm looking at either CAP or Bois Cement.
Okay.
So both of them are ranked at the same point.
If you actually want to allocate your resources, like let's say you have $1 million to allocate, how will you do that?
Of course, I will be very weighted. And what that means is that I will allocate up to 30 to 40% to just Dangote Cement. The reason is, for example, I told you, among those names, it is the cheapest in terms of the PE ratio. And I believe very strongly that by the time they announce their result, the PE ratio will collapse from that 15 to somewhere around 14 or 10 or 13. So that meaning that I'm still buying cheaper, way cheaper. You are talking about a company that is the largest company on the NGX. There are so many things that run for it. So that means Dangote deserves to attract 40% of. Then I will spread the other ones across the rest for names.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I think we'll keep an eye on especially Boa and the other one.
Yes.
Yeah, let's see how it actually moves. Thank you for coming, Very.
You're welcome.
All right, now this is an investment advice. Before you actually make investments, speak to your investment advisor, or you do your personal analysis or your research. Now, this has been the package for today's episode of Clockwise. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, put on the bell on this channel because of the amazing content we bring. And also, if you want to be part of our community, because we have a Telegram community where we speak to people on real time, you actually go to our profile page, you see a link there that can take you to our Telegram community, or you go to Telegram directly and search for Clockwise podcast, and you see the group and you can actually join and we'll have a close conversation. Now, thank you for taking us to this point, for being with us to this point. And please do not forget, there's always a bull market somewhere, and we are here to help you find it. See you again. My name is Providence.